This would have been the last thing the buffalo saw as the natives drove them to the cliff at Head Smashed In. The final moment, the plunge from the cliff to the slope down below. I've often thought about this moment and imagined being here during the final acts of a buffalo drive. The herds thundering down towards the cliff, the hunters waving, shouting frantically, the dust following the animals in the air, maybe even blowing in front of them because of the strong winds that would be behind them blowing in this direction. And you try to picture what this might have looked like, and the sounds and the smell of the animals literally crashing over this cliff like a brown waterfall of fur, smashing into the ground down below, slamming into the earth, rolling, falling, other animals falling and rolling on top of them. The bellowing sounds, the pain, the anger in the animals, dozens of them, dozens after dozens, continuing to fall and pour on top of the others. The ones that survived at the bottom being slammed by the next ones coming down on them, killing them and burying them under this pile of bison mounds of flesh. It would have been just a staggering thing to see and to behold. The blood seeping into the ground, the fur flying, torn off from these animals, the hoofs flailing in the air as they sailed over the cliff, trying to find some kind of purchase to grip onto, sliding off the very last here at the end of the cliff, trying to put the brakes on, animals trying to turn at the last minute, being pushed over by those behind them, young calves flying over the mothers. Just an unbelievable thing to try and imagine. And the sounds of all this, the sights, the smell as these animals were crushed down below. And of course, surrounding all of this on the prairie around this mound of flesh would be a group of probably several hundred people whose job it was to kill off the animals now, to make this the end of the drive and make sure none of them escaped. So there's several hundred people probably behind, pushing these animals towards the cliff, and making sure they don't break through that final last bit of the drive lanes. And then hundreds more are waiting down below here with their bows and arrows and spears and clubs, all starting to swarm near this pile of this mound of seething bison carcasses, because many of these animals are dangerous now. They're badly wounded, they're angry, some of them are unscathed completely. They just by happenstance they've fallen and they've not damaged anything, and they're up and they're trying to run, and they're disoriented and shocked, and the hunters are all trying to kill these animals. It would be a scene of almost chaos, except that of course everything up to this moment has been tightly and carefully controlled by the hunters themselves. So chaos only in the sense that the animals are completely confused and have no idea what just happened to them. All they know, many of them are dead, many of them badly wounded, a few of them hardly wounded at all, and probably trying to make their escape down to freedom onto the plains below us. One thing we do know about almost all the Plains Indian groups that use the buffalo jumps all across the northern plains is they always made an effort to kill every single animal. They didn't let any of them go. And some people question that. They wonder why, if they've killed 100 or 150, why don't they let any survivors of the actual jump, why don't they let them go? Haven't they got enough? Don't they have enough food and clothing for the winter? And I think it's important to realize that that's not the issue. It's not a matter of how much food or clothing you have. It has to do with the beliefs about the nature of the animals in the spiritual world that they inhabited, and the nature of the spirits in the world that the native people themselves lived in. Everything was animate in the lives of native people. Everything had power, and bison had power, rocks had power, these bushes and trees had power, the cliff itself had power, and everything had to be in accordance with the wills and the ideas of the spirit world. And as these buffalo poured over the cliff, and they've been driven through that drive lane now, they've seen the hunters along the side, they've been corralled and squeezed through this chute to the very end. They've learned the tricks, the secrets of the buffalo jump, and they understand now how this was all pulled on them as a great elaborate ploy or a trick. And if they escape, if they run to freedom for another day, they're going to alert other herds of the nature of this trap. And then buffalo jumps in the future are going to fail, because the buffalo have mingled back into the herd, and they have told the other buffalo, communicated to them the nature of the trap. So every group we know of, all the different Plains Indians tribes, all tried to kill all the animals. None of them let them go after a great buffalo jump such as this. And the reason has nothing to do with conservation or an ethic about how much you need. It has to do with the belief about the nature of the world that they lived in, and we need to respect that, because that's a critical part of their culture, and we shouldn't judge it from the point of view of our own culture and what we think is right and wrong. So this is the great moment. This is that dramatic plunge from the edge of the cliff to the soil down below. This is where I think at the very end of the drive, when everything suddenly, this great calm came over the events here, and the noise and the dust finally started to settle, I think hundreds of people probably came running towards the edge of the cliff. All the people who had driven these animals, kept them contained in the drive lanes, the buffalo runners in their disguise, they would all come running up here to the edge, because of course what everyone wants to know is, did it work? Did this thing succeed? Are the buffalo at the bottom of the cliff? Are they being killed? Is it over? Are they dead? And you could picture these, like, probably hundreds of people lined up here, peering over the edge, wondering if they're needed. First of all, do I need to get down there? Are there many survivors that need to be killed off? And I think it's a great image to think of viewing this from down below, sitting down in a lawn chair on the prairie and looking up towards the cliff, with the dust just settling and blowing over, and these native people running up to the edge to see the fruits of their handiwork. And here's this mound of bison. It's still moving, it's seething. Animals are dropping off to the sides as they try to scramble, and the bellowing sounds and the blood running red in the soil. And then there's this seething group of hunters around the edges of them, firing arrows into this, using their spears, trying not to get gored by the animals that are up and running and moving their heads. And buffalo are very dangerous animals, and to be able to sit out there and watch that would have been truly an astonishing moment. It's the kind of thing I wish everybody could have seen at one point. I certainly wish I could have seen it.